How's everyone doing?
Fantastic.
Good, good. Welcome back, Trey. We didn't scare you off too badly last week, right? Awesome, awesome. Hey, Mike, before we jump in, we have a ATM installation opportunity, and we have an outreach event this Friday. One of the asks is ATM installations, concrete, and lifts and cranes. And because I know you do concrete, I wanted to make sure that it's on your radar.
Yes, it is. We just won one on Friday. We just picked up another CTA contract. We got the ceiling for the concrete.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank
Mike.
you.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah, yeah, it's exciting.
And okay. All right. Looks like the gang is here. Welcome back to our small business education series. We are in week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, getting paid and closing out. Before we dive into today's presentation, per usual, we'll go through what our agenda will look like for today. We will go through our attendance and introductions. Of course, the introductions will be our 60-second pitch per se, as if Marco from Jacobs Engineering had the perfect contract opportunity in his hands waiting for you. This will be your time to sell as to why he should hand it your way. Then we'll briefly talk about weeks 4 discussion, if you have any questions or comments to add there. And then we'll go right in with getting paid and closing it out with Jacobs Engineering Group. As always, we'll open it up for Q&A at the end of the presentation or whenever Marco opens up throughout his presentation. Of course, housekeeping rules. Let's keep our audio muted unless called upon or open discussion. Encourage you to keep your videos on. And for those of you who missed it, my video camera just has not been working in all of my meetings today. I'm not sure. So, but I still want to encourage you all to turn your cameras on. So if you can, of course, be engaged, ask questions for anything that perhaps we've discussed thus far. And of course, today's conversation, utilize the chat box, either personally to myself or Chanel, or open to the group or the presenter. And then at around 5 p.m.-ish, or wherever Marco may be at a good pausing point, we'll take a 5-minute standing break, and then we'll come right back and dive into it. And that said, I think we are ready to go around the room. While we go around the room, if you have not done so already, just go ahead and drop your name in the chat box for our attendance. And Chanel will grab your name there to make sure she records you for the day. All righty. Who do we have up first? Trey, you want to give us a little introduction?
Hello, everyone. My name is Trey Kraut. I'm with QRSE LLC. We are a professional service engineering firm. We provide construction management and design. Those are our specialties. We are based out of Hawaii and Illinois, and we are looking to grow our Illinois office.
Awesome. Thank you, Trey. And Mike?
I am Mike with Allstate Concrete Cutting. We're a concrete cutting and demolition company. We are currently on a CTA project, doing all the coring and wall sawing and cutting. And we are an MBE, BEPD, and DBE certified contractor.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. And Melissa?
Oh, hi. Good afternoon. I'm Melissa Fuller, the owner of MTC Properties 1. We are a real estate development company, and basically we acquire land and build residential and commercial properties. We're located now, just moved out to the far south suburbs, and I'm here to build and get more information for my certification with CTA.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank
Curtis?
you.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everyone. My name is Curtis Harmon, co-owner of Fidelity Plumbing, LLC. We're a plumbing contractor located in Lake County, Illinois. We do work all over the state of Illinois. We specialize in commercial, residential, and sewer construction as it relates to plumbing. We're MBE, BEP, and DBE certified, and we're also signatory with Local 130 Plumbers Union. Thank you.
Nice, Curtis. Thank you. Marina? Hi, Marina.
Hi, everyone. Elda Manion, Garces Contractors. We do all kind of plumbing, sewer, excavation, water main work. I am certified MBE, WBE, and DBE, as well with that's with the city of Chicago, and I'm certified with Central Management in the state of Illinois also as a female business owner. We do all kind of plumbing. We also are union members of Local 130, and thank you, and happy to see everybody.
Likewise. Thank you, Marina.
Thank you.
And it's saying Forrest, but I know that's not your name. It is?
Forrest. That is my name. That's what my mother named me.
Your first name, Forrest?
My first name is Forrest.
That isn't what comes up on my registration list. Or perhaps I thought it was your last name. Sorry about that.
That's okay. All right, so my name is Forrest Brown. Name of my company is Construction by Silverline. We do residential remodeling and renovations. I have certification with the city of Chicago as a CM.
Awesome. Thank you, Forrest.
Thank you.
Divi?
Hi, everybody.
How's it going?
Going good. I'm doing my market research in how photography and pictures are useful for transportation and supply and logistics. So it's going good.
Awesome. Awesome. You want to give Marco an introduction of your business, Divi?
Oh, hey, Mike. Michael?
Yes.
No,
Oh, hey there. As our meetings have gone last time, I'm polling people as to the feasibility and efficiency of using pictures to promote customer satisfaction and improvement, and also crew safety. It's a fantastic way to get people thinking about how photography is useful in the workplace and while traveling.
Awesome. Thank you, Divi. And Divi, I like how you identify a problem and quickly provided the solution for them as to why your services could be beneficial to them. So that was awesome. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
We have an iPhone. Who's behind the iPhone?
That may be me. This is Gustavo Geraldo.
Gustavo.
How are ya?
Pretty good. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, you're most welcome. So, yeah, I'm with Jacobs Engineering, Connect Chicago Alliance, working out of O'Hare Airport on ORD 21. And I'm here this afternoon to provide support to my Jacobs colleague.
Awesome.
Thank you, Gustavo.
You're most welcome.
Awesome. And then Beatrice?
There, I'm Beatrice Steele with Lawn Care Maven, LLC. We are an eco-friendly lawn care and landscaping company here in the city of Chicago.
Awesome, and thank you. Chanel?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Chanel Harmon, and I'm the coordinator for small business development and outreach with the CTA.
Awesome. And of course, I'm Jamie Neely, manager of small business development and outreach. And then Marco, I know you're going to present to us later, but would you mind giving us a quick intro?
Sure. My name is Marco Lodeiro. Just call me Marco. A lot of people will butcher my last name. So So I work for Jacobs Engineering Group. My role within Jacobs, I am the structures, construction management, as well as the rail group leader. As part of my role, we do a lot of work for the CTA. Some of the recent projects that I have worked, I was the structural lead for the Wilson Transfer Station. And then I moved on to be the project manager for Jacobs as owner's rep on the 95th station reconstruction. And now I'm currently the design build coordinator for the CTA RPM design build project.
Awesome, and thank you, Marco, for joining us.
You're welcome.
Great introductions, everyone. Thank you. Any questions or thoughts about last week's discussion? We had Span Tech here talking about scheduling and budgeting. And while that presentation ended a little halfway through our class, then we quickly talked about vendor registration and capability statements. Just a heads up, the capability statement template that I had, it was from the assist agency, the Illinois PTAC. And so I just had to get clearance to make sure it was okay for me to share it under CTA, and JP Juan Pablo gave me the okay. So I'll be able to share that with you guys today. Did everyone get registered as a CTA vendor? Yes. Well, Mike, you were already in there. You're already in there. Beatrice, we have our lawn contract that we are revising currently. That's going to go out to market over the next couple of months. So you want to make sure that you're ready for that as a DBE, because we want to make sure we want to put it for DBEs. Currently DBEs have it, but we've identified some challenges. And so when we put it out there again, we want to make sure that one, we're crafting the contract in a way that our DBEs can perform successfully on it, but then also, that you all have the capability to successfully do the job. So want to make sure that you're DBE certified and registered and in our systems before they come out. So if you're interested, let Chanel and I know, and we can make sure we provide the resources to all of you all. But just because I know that one's coming up, I don't want us to miss it. And then your capability statements, again, no pressure there, but you can obviously use that as a marketing tool to get in front of some folks as we have different outreach events coming up, which is actually a good segue to talk about some of our events that's coming up before I forget. So really quickly, let me see if I can share this other screen. Share screen 3. Screen 3, there we go. Can everyone see this? Meet the Prime?
Yes.
Yes,
Perfect.
you can see it.
All right, so a couple of events. This Friday, we have Meet the Prime. Cardtronics is currently the prime contractor over our ATM contract. We are pushing for them to have more DBE utilization. So after meeting with them last week, we identified a couple of categories that's still remaining on the contract. That includes anyone that has experience with ATM installations, lifts or cranes. They are looking to pull about a 12,000 pound ATM up some stairs. So they need lifts and cranes for that and some concrete work. So if you all are interested, we have an outreach event scheduled this Friday at 10 a.m. I encourage you all to attend and come with some questions. It will be a quick turnaround because the contract is live. So they're looking for some DBEs to jump on rather quickly. We also have a Surety Bond outreach event that's coming up October 13th. For those of you who are interested in learning about what Surety Bonds are, when and why they are required, how do you apply and access them, I encourage you all to register here. And we'll send all the flyers out for you with the registration links and information. But if you were registered as a CTA vendor, you should have already received them. And then we have on this Thursday, we have the RPM Building Your Financial Capacity for those of you who may be interested in getting capital, whether it's, you know, the emergency loan funds, PPP or EIDL, or just traditional funding. We have been successful through this program. In just about a year's worth of time doing this program, we've already helped about 15 or so firms secure funding, totaling almost $5 million. So we do a lot of the program does a lot of the legwork. It helps through the one-on-one consultations to understand your financial placement, what your capital needs are, and then we kind of do some capital sourcing for you or with you to see which financial lender is, you know, has the right loan product for you. And then in honor of National Women's Small Business Month, we have partnered with the Women's Business Development Center to have a conversation about diversity in business and workforce. Well, we will talk about, you know, things like registering as a vendor, how to find out about our contract opportunities, and what upcoming opportunities are coming down the pipeline. And that's going to be October 28th at 10 a.m. again, with the registration and information here too. Any questions or thoughts about those outreach events? Awesome. All right, now for why you all are here this evening, getting paid and closing it out by Jacobs Engineering. Marco, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Sure thing. You'll notice, Marco, and I'll be your clicker. You can just let me know when you're ready for the next slide. You'll notice that I merged your presentation into our CTA format, so it may look a little different, but the content is still the same.
Sure, go ahead. Are you going to share? Not sure if we lost it.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm still sharing the other screen. Sorry. Give me one second.
Well, while you working on putting on the screen, you know, this is an important topic, obviously, is getting paid. Everybody likes to get paid. And so, you know, so is Jacobs when we work on these very big projects. I will talk a little bit about, you know, how to get paid and what are the steps that are necessary for you to get paid. But I see that, you know, listening to the introductions, I see that there's some folks that have a CM and a design background, as well as on the contractor side. And so, you know, I'm open to questions later on, because I have done on the design side for CTA as well as the construction management, and currently working on the CTA RPM design build. So I have the contractor's perspective. My experience, I have worked in design builds where our Jacobs has teamed up with big contractors like Walsh and FH Fashion. So I can give you some insight on how to get connected and how to get better position to, you know, to get work on these upcoming projects. Now, I put in my email, but my email is just my first name, marco.lodeiro at jacobs.com. I also, there's my phone number. You're free to give me a call. And I'm also on LinkedIn if you want to reach through LinkedIn. I'm regularly checking LinkedIn. Next slide. So today's agenda, you know, we're going to talk about earned value, invoice and progress reporting, how to do the project closeout, and then I'll open to questions and answers. I don't want to make this too theoretical. I just want to explain a little bit briefly on the concept of earned value. I know that, you know, some of you will probably, the best position is to start as a sub role and then look into prime. When you prime a job at the CTA, your responsibility, you know, it grows. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. So you're going to have a very strict process in place if you wanna prime a job with the CTA, and that's where the earned value concept is going to be more applicable because the prime contractor is really responsible to keep track of the earned value as well as to put the invoice and progress reporting. Now, it doesn't mean that if you are a sub to a prime that you don't have to follow all the, the strict requirements, and that's what I'm gonna touch bases. And I'm also gonna let you know some of the lessons learned and past experience that I have had some successful stories and not so successful stories, and so you can avoid this pitfalls going forward. Next slide. Yeah, you can go to the next one. So earned value. So what is earned value? So it's a very simple concept. So it was first developed for the aerospace industry done by the US government, and that was specifically done by the Department of Defense. So, and then when the system was created, and the beauty of the system is that you can really track the project progress in a graph. You really don't have to look into much detail into your, progress reports, numbers, and tables, because once you have that data and you plug in a chart, you should be quickly able to see how the project is progressing. And I'm going to give you some examples here and actually show some actual examples with the CTA. Now, currently this is covered, the earned value is covered by the American National Standards Institute. And the goal of earned value is that basically you're gonna have control of the project performance. That's what it comes down to. Once you develop earned value, you're gonna be able to see if you are above or below budget. You're gonna be able to see that if you are on schedule or behind schedule. And once you be able to monitor on a regular basis. And then if you are, say, behind schedule, you're going to be able to, to do first, if it's a cost escalation, then you're going to be able to do a cost containment. If it's a schedule, you're going to have to, develop a schedule or recovery. And these are all the things that are going to be needed if you're doing a project for CTA when you're a prime. So next slide. Okay, so what does control of the project performance mean? So there, we can control project performance in so many different levels, but the bottom line, it comes down to two. One, it's schedule, which means that are you, based on your proposed schedule, your baseline schedule that you have provided, are you meeting the delivery of the project? Are you gonna deliver it on time? And the other one is the cost. Are you above cost or below cost? So when we talked about earned value, I want you to think of two things and two things only, which is the schedule and the cost, okay? Next slide. So how can this help me? So earned value, at the end of the day, and I'm gonna make it this very simple, it's gonna tell you if you're on time and on budget delivery. So the beauty of earned value is that as you're spending, you're gonna get data points, and those data points you're gonna be able to project into the future, assuming that you're gonna have the same pace of delivery and also cost expenditure. And then you're going to be able to achieve, and you're going to see, okay, am I going to be on target or I'm going to be substantially off target? So then you can develop some, like I said, containment plans. So you can also identify deviations to the plans. It's an early warning sign. As a matter of fact, when you're submitting invoices to the CTA, you have to submit your tracking, your earned value, your schedule of values, and any updates to your schedule. So that has to be a regular and ongoing process. So it's not like you're going to just be able to do a a delivery schedule, a construction schedule, and then don't have to update anymore. That is not the case. So you're going to have to update that on a regular basis and sometimes on a monthly basis. When you're off, whether you're above budget or you're delayed, then as per CTA requirements, you're required to do a plan correction action to meet the plan value. And we're going to talk a little bit about plan value. Next slide, please. Okay, so how can I apply earned value to CTA projects? So there's two important pieces of documentation and this is primarily when you decide to prime a job. So when you decide to prime a job, they're going to be, as part of your contract, there's going to be a Cta General Conditions. So Cta General Conditions essentially boils down to a lot of documentation that you really need to familiarize yourself. And I also recommend that even if you're a sub, you should get familiar with those documents. Because first, you're gonna learn what are the rules and regulations, what you're entitled to, and what you're gonna have to do going forward. And then the general conditions also will give you some instructions as far as the implementation and tracking of the earned value. So out of this slide, and not to make things very simple, think about Cta General Conditions. That's the document that you really need to pay attention when you get a project and you're pursuing as a prime. Next slide, please. So a little bit about the Cta General Conditions. So in there, like I mentioned before, it's going to tell you what is required to implement earned value. So there's going to be a set of specifications, project specifications, and there's a very important one, which is called the baseline schedule or construction schedule. So under this set of specifications, it's going to tell you how the CTA would like to see your schedule, your delivery schedule, and all the requirements that you have to meet. Now, the key here is for you to get paid, the first step, this is the first step. So you can't deviate from this. So in order for you to get paid when you're pursuing as a prime, you need to develop a baseline schedule. So the requirements of this baseline schedule, I just summarized, but there are more requirements that are highlighted on this document that I mentioned. I'm just going to give you like the basic schedule, the basic requirements. First is that you have to submit it has to be a CPM type of schedule, which is a critical path method. So that's your schedule needs to follow that. Second, it needs to be submitted 45 days after notice to proceed. Now, when the project is relatively small, it's not a big deal. But when the project is fairly large, that becomes, an issue. For very large design build projects like the CTA RPM, as a matter of fact, the contractor has the baseline, starts developing the baseline schedule on the tender design phase. It's not when the contractor gets the node to proceed, they're going to develop the schedule. So it varies in size and complexity of the project. So the smaller the project, the easier to put the schedule. But you have to meet the 45 days after independent of the size of the project. You are also required to use Primavera, a P6 program. Now, the general contractor, the prime, he is responsible in putting together the critical path schedule. Now, one word a caution that I have to say is, let's suppose that you are a sub on a job. The first thing that you need to know, at first we're all excited, we got the job and it's great, let's work on it. However, you gotta be familiar, you gotta look at the schedule and make sure that you can meet the schedule, okay? If you're a sub, you gotta let the contractor know or the design engineering firm that you can meet the schedule. So that's very important. So don't overpromise and then underdeliver. And I'll get in details about the issues of overpromising and underdelivering. There are certain differences between the procurement methods for design, bid, build, and design, build. But again, all these nuances are going to come with the contract requirements. So you really got to spend your time and go over the general conditions as well as all the contract requirements. Next slide. Okay, some of the schedule requirements. You have to list all the major activities, and then you have to cost load those activities. And I'm going to show you an example. Following that, once you submit, there's going to be a CTA review period for your schedule. And following that review period, it's more than likely you're going to have a meeting, a review meeting with a CTA personnel. And out of that meeting, there's going to be some back and forth and comments that you're going to have to do some adjustments to your baseline schedule. Following that is the acceptance. Once the CTA accepts your schedule, in January, this gets uploaded to the web project management site, which is eBuilder for CTA. And then from that point on, you're going to have to provide monthly updates. And in the case that you deviate in terms of cost or schedule, then you have to perform a recovery schedule and update your baseline schedule. Now, any time extension and change orders have also to be included, and those are included as you move along and you do your monthly updates. Next slide, please. Okay, cost. And this is how, again, this is under the terms of general conditions, and you can find the spec number is 12910, which is the applications and certificates for payment. Now, again, the responsibility of submitting a invoice and an application for payment, that lies with the prime or the general contractor or whoever your prime consultant is. Now, I will talk about some of the things that my experience, just want to go over my notes. Some of my experiences about that. But in general, this section, and you should get familiar. If you have an opportunity to get a hold of this document, you should familiarize yourself and understand, because there will give you all the requirements to, there are certain minor differences. One is that your first invoice, usually the first invoice requires a little bit more documentation. And if your first invoice requires some sort of mobilization costs, there are a couple other requirements that you have to meet. Now, the other two that I have to mention is when you're submitting an invoice that is for substantial completion, then you have to, there's certain documents that you also have to submit in addition to the regular ones, and also for the final closeout, which I'll get in detail at the end of the presentation. Now, as part of the cost for you to submit an invoice, you need to submit a schedule of values. And I have an example that I'll show you later on of a schedule of values. But again, your schedule values has a similar requirement to your baseline schedule that you have to submit within the 45 days after NTP, no exceptions. And usually should contains all items of work. That includes labor and material. And of course, it must be coordinated with your baseline schedule, right? Your critical path method schedule. So both, they have to jive. They cannot deviate from one another. And again, there are certain differences between design, bid, build, and design, build. Next slide. So here is earned value chart. So there's essentially, you're going to be looking at three curves when you do an earned value. And here what you see is the plan value. So the plan value is essentially on the horizontal axis, you have time. So that's the time that's going to take you for you to complete the project. So at the beginning of the curve essentially is telling you that's when you're starting, and the end of the curve is where you end. And then on the vertical axis is the total costs that you're going to incur as far as that schedule values. So the plan value, and that's what your theoretical, or so to speak, is that's how you envision, is essentially the percent complete times the contract value. So if you have, let's say it's $1 million contract, and over time you spend 100%, 100% times your contract value is basically your $1 million there that you have at the top of the chart. And so what this plan value curve tells you is, in theory, or how you anticipate to basically over time to be spending and delivering actual value, to deliver the plan value on the project. Next slide. Okay, so now that you have the plan value and the project starts, oops. Okay, so now that you have the plan value, and that's what you're gonna provide to the CTA, now the project starts. Now you're gonna have to keep track. And one of the things that you keep track is the blue curve that you see there is actual cost. So actual cost is the actual cost to date that you have incurred, right? So as you're building, say, a station or doing some work and you're spending, and those are gonna be your actual cost. So you're spending to date. So then once you have those costs, you can, and then plot it, and you're gonna end up with that blue curve. Now the red curve is the earn value. Now the earn value is essentially the cost of the project times what you think you have completed. So let's say that after 2 months, after 2 months the project started, you say I completed about 20% of what I should have completed, and then you get that 20% times either the task value or the contract value that you have, and then that's how you get a plot of the earn value. Okay. Now there's some literature, if you're not familiar, there's some literature that explains this very well, and it's not that hard to understand. That you can find on the internet, and you're going to find some similar graphs that will provide the explanation. Next graph, please. Okay, so now that you have all three curves plotted, you can basically determine, okay, am I on schedule and am I within cost? So let's start with the schedule variance. So in order for you to determine if you are on schedule, is essentially what you do is you get your earn value, which is the red line, okay? And you subtract from the plan value. So it's earn value minus plan value. And that's where you see that schedule variance. Now, you can be below the curve, at the curve, or above. So in this case, earn value is below the plan value. That means that you are late. You are behind schedule. If the red curve earn value was above the plan value, you would be delivering faster. You're accelerating, right? And if both curves coincide, the red and the black line, then you are within schedule. Now, for you to determine the cost variance, essentially is your earned value, the red line, minus your actual costs, which is the blue line. So but essentially long story short, if the blue line is above your earned value, then you're spending faster than you should. That means you're above budget. So in this case, this example that we have on the screen is actually, it's a project that is going south, not doing too well because it's behind schedule and also above budget. But essentially what earned value does is that you can quickly graph from your data and get this instead of going through reports and trying to, you know, look at numbers and tables. But that's the principle of earned value. Next slide, please. So implementation. So earned value is what has actually been accomplished at a given point. And it's like I mentioned, is your percent complete times your cost, your planned cost, right? And so by identifying the monthly trends, you can identify early warning signs of potential and schedule cost and schedule problems. And then like I did on that example, you can compare the curves and then you can assess your schedule as well as your cost variance. So on very large jobs, this is done on a regular basis. It's, you know, contractors are paying very close attention to this, and so is owner representatives for the CTA or any, you know, CM team that works on behalf of CTA. We're always watching that. Next. So I'm going to jump on the invoicing and progress reporting next, but maybe I should pause here and see if anybody has any questions. No questions? Okay, if no questions, I'll keep on going. All right, next slide, please. So getting paid.
Marco, I have a quick question.
Sure.
So is this, are these graphs all done using Primavera P6?
Yes, correct. I mean, there's other softwares that you can use. You can even track this on a spreadsheet if you want. But you know, the beauty of Primavera, because you have to enter your CPM schedule and all your schedule values, you know, it tracks automatically. But it's nothing that you cannot be doing this on a spreadsheet. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. So I'll jump to invoicing and progress reporting and getting paid. Okay. So there's a big misconception out there, and this is my personal experience, right? That, you know, large firms don't really worry about getting paid because they can sustain and they have the financial capital to, you know, have delay payments. And that's completely untrue. We like to get paid as much as you like to get paid. The problem, and I'm going to give you some lessons learned, is that first of all, you know, when you are the main issue that we've had in the past, and I will just give you a few, is that let's take, for instance, a project where there is a very large team, and I'm the prime, Jacobs is the prime, and we have 10 or 15 subs, okay? We need, when we put an invoice together, there are several processes, not something that, and I'm going to show you the process that it takes to put an invoice together. But we actually have a team of experts putting what we call project accountants. It's really not the project manager that is putting these invoices. So we have a whole team that assembles. But I want you to imagine, like, say, Jacobs has a team where we have 10 or 15 sub-consultants. In order for us to put an invoice to CTA, we need to collect all 10 or 15 invoices. So that's one step. So the challenge is we are gonna, you know, in general, what you're gonna see is when you're joining a team as a sub, they are going to give you a schedule and say, you know, these are monthly invoices, these are the deadline dates. Number one issue that we find is that subs don't submit on time. Keep that in mind. That is a deadline that you should not miss it if you want to get paid. Because if one is delayed, then the whole invoice is delayed. So the team suffers, right? And in the long run, we are looking for repeated business, right? So you have to keep in mind that when you're part of a team, in order for you to be a reliable partner, you need to meet these deadlines. So, you know, sometimes when we have large teams, I receive calls from our sub-consultants. It's like, why didn't I get paid? Oh, you didn't get paid because I have 2 or 3 subs that haven't even submitted the invoice. So that's one. So lessons learned here is that, you know, really pay attention to the deadline dates of the invoice if you are going to be a sub. Number two, when we get invoices, make sure you're checking your work, okay? The number two biggest problem that we have is that when we get the invoices from our sub-consultants, it is completely wrong. I mean, it's math that doesn't add correctly, rounding errors, missing timesheets. It's really basic. It's really basic. And so what happens is that when we get the invoice, we have to check. We do a internal check. And if there are issues, we need to go and submit so you can revise it, and then you send it back. And so there's back and forth. And so if, let's say, if I have a deadline that is on the 1st of the month, and then when I get your invoice, I have to check it. And by the time you identify the error, 2 or 3 days have passed. Now I got to send it to you. Now you're going to take a couple more days, and then 1 week went by. And now keep in mind, and I'll talk about it, is that we need to submit a pencil copy to the CTA. So then CTA has to review the pencil copy, has to approve, and then we can submit the final invoice, right? So it's essential that if you want to create a partnership with a prime, that you really pay attention to that. And that's why I'm saying that you really need to understand under the general conditions, to look at the terms and to look at the requirements and really understand how that is done. Let me see. Yeah, so the QC. So then the other things too is that sometimes that you know, you're going to be required to act quickly on some requests. So what I would recommend is that you have a reliable single point of contact that is available. So if you are a sub on a team, that your prime can quickly contact someone and that can take care of the invoice or any requests of documentation, right? Again, always meet the deadline, be responsible, be responsive, and please submit for the deadline and check the invoice. So so going on, we're going to talk about the contract between the prime and the subcontractor, the schedule values, invoicing, waiver lien, and then the progress reporting. And that's going to be another important component, which is the progress reporting through these two platforms. Next slide, please. Okay, contract between prime and subcontractor. So in general, typically, and I haven't seen any different than this, but typically the prime contractors will incorporate the CTA's general conditions into the subcontract. So you're gonna have very little differences between, you know, the CTA and the prime, and then the prime flowing that down to the subcontractor. So in general, it's just it's the same general conditions. But that doesn't mean that you should not review the entire contract. You should review the entire contract and understand your rights and responsibilities. Okay? I cannot emphasize this strongly enough. Understand your rights and responsibilities. Read the contract. Now, the prime will be required to post executed contract sometimes. So the executed contract, it will be posted on the web-based project management, which is eBuilder. Next slide. Okay, so on the schedule values, which is going to be part of for the payment process, the contractor has to submit a schedule of values. And in the schedule values, there are going to be line items of the items contracted. And under the items contracted, they will list the work completed, which is typically given as a percentage. Then there's going to be a retainage amount. So there is a retainage applied to the contract value. And then also is listed the previously paid amount and the balance to complete. Next screen. So here's an actual example of a schedule of values. So I'll start with the work items. So you have a column which will list the description of the items. So in this case, we are going through the general condition, and then so there's some design coordination for systems work, design coordination for structure, civil, and so on and so forth. Now on the second column, it's basically the firm that is doing the work. Okay. So if you're a sub, your firm would be under a individual line like this, and then the unit price, that's the lump sum that we have here, and then the unit price is the total cost for that item. And then you can see that the previous cumulative work. So over time, you're going to give your percent complete, and then you have to track work completed this period and the cumulative work completed. And then you can see that there's retention applied to each of those columns, and then the balance to finish. So these are items that you have to track. Now, you only track these if you are a prime. If you're a sub-consultant, the prime will track. The prime will probably just ask you, what is your percent complete? Next. Invoicing. So the invoicing and all these requirements are listed on the general conditions and the specifications that I mentioned. Now you can, when you submit your invoice, you can use your own letterhead, or you can use a prime supplied format. In general, Jacobs, we use either one. On the 95th, we just let our subcontractors use their own letterhead. But you can also request a template or use CTA templates if available, okay? Now, and that will also contain much of the same information that you see on the schedule values. Now, here's an important clause and that you should know. So when the prime gets paid, they have 14 days to pay the subcontractor. So you should see, if once the prime gets paid, you should see your check within 2 weeks. And if you don't get it, then pick up the phone and then call. Don't feel bad about it. Call. I get these calls all the time. Next slide. Okay, and then when you submit your invoice, you have to submit a waiver lien, and then the contractor has to submit his own, but the subs also have to submit. However, the subs will trail 1 month behind because the waiver lien has to show that you got paid. Therefore, you're going to trail 1 month behind. And then I'll go in detail on how you report whether or not you got paid. And that's a very important point that you should not miss. Next one. Okay, the progress reporting. You have to do this. So the progress reporting, there's 2 platforms that you have to use, and I put a link to the website. It's on CTA's website, so you can get access to these 2 platforms. One is called Lcp Tracker, which is the Labor Compliance Payroll Tracker that is used to submit weekly certified payroll. Now, the CTA has the right to hold up the payment if the prime to the prime if the information is not entered, right? So the prime needs to be aware. If you're going to be a prime, you need to be aware of that. So it's not like you just can submit an invoice and expect that you're going to get paid. There's a couple steps here, and these are very important steps. So one is the LCP tracker. So I put a snapshot of the website, and you can see you're going to find under reference links that they're highlighted in yellow. Next. Okay. The other one is the B2G Now, and which is the Business Diversity Management System. It's a very widely used, platform. Primarily used to track DBE participation and to report received payments. If you don't enter your information, then the CTA can hold up payment to Prime if not entered. So make sure that you include that on your checklist. And when doing invoices for the CTA, what I do recommend, and this is a system that we use at Jacobs and we have in-house, develop a checklist. Develop a checklist of every item that you have to do, right? And then what you do is you put on a column is that if somebody that is putting the invoice together, that put a check mark, done, 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 and then you put a column right next to it, which is the QC. And then you have a second person doing the QC. And the reason for this is as follows. Let's say you have somebody that you have trained, you're gonna need to train someone to put this invoice together. You know, it's not gonna be something that you can do today and then somebody will basically get a last month's invoice. Let's say this person goes to vacation and then somebody needs to slap the invoice together. It's not going to be something that somebody can get a piece of paper from the last month invoice and start to replicate. It's not gonna happen, I tell you that. So to avoid the headache, I recommend that you first develop a checklist and then you have your primary point of contact, right? And that also that person is gonna be the person that will put the invoices regularly. And that at the same time, you train someone that will do the QC, but as that person will do the QC, that person will become familiar with the process. So in the event that one gets sick or goes on a vacation, you have someone to do the invoice for you. But you will need, I would strongly recommend that you have 2 people familiar with the invoice process. Next. Okay, so next I'll jump on the project closeout, but again, I'll stop here and see if anybody has any questions.
Any questions? Let's see if there's any in the chat. Oh, okay, Melissa, after a sub has been awarded a job, what percentage of their own money do they have to use to get the job started?
I'm sorry, what is that again?
Sorry about that. Let me put my
head
in just a second.
Okay.
After a sub.
Yeah.
Sorry. After a sub has been awarded a job, what percentage of their own money do they have to use to get the job started?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? So let's say that you're a contractor, you need to start doing the work, and the first invoice, usually we invoice on a monthly basis. So what happens is you're gonna have to do the first month worth of work so you can invoice. Now, as you go through that documentation that I gave you, it states that the CTA can take up to 60 days to process the invoice. Now, the process of the invoice is critical. It depends how good your Prime is. If you're working under a Prime that is well-versed on the process, it's not going to take 2 months. Because after that first month, you're gonna do the first month of work, and we'll talk about Jacob's case in general. We do the first month of work, and we say we want your invoices by this date. We would quickly assemble, compile. Again, it's if everyone can meet the deadline, right? So that's number one. If everybody meets the deadline and if all the invoices are in good quality control, there's no mistakes, we put them together, we upload a pencil copy, and we try to get approval as quick as possible. So in that process, say it takes about, a week or 2. So now we're looking at a month and then a half of a month. And then once the invoice gets accepted and gets loaded, sometimes it can take, 2 weeks, or sometimes it can take 3 to 4 weeks. So you potentially are looking at a couple months until you get your first payment.
Yeah, thank you, Marco. I think that's fair. I think whether it's CTA or any public or even private contracts,
right,
to have a cash flow plan in place,
yes,
just in anticipation, guys, for either on-time payment cycles, which for small businesses still seem like a very, very long time, but also in addition to those delayed payment cycles, that you may not have anticipated for, but you still have to, you know, meet payroll and keep the lights on. So thinking about what that cash flow plan looks like, you know, oftentimes as a former banker, we would always say, try to put up 3 months of your, you know, of your operating expenses in your reserves. For small businesses, that's hard. It's really tough to do, right? But that's just to say there will be a lot of upfront money that you have to kind of go into the contracts or projects with before you receive your first payment. And last year, they just passed the Prompt Pay Act that obliges the primes to pay their subs within 7 days of which they receive the payment. But again, that may be 30, 45, 60 days from when you've started the job. So just anticipate what that looks like. And if you need capital or to supplement that, then think about that before bidding, before signing on, because we're experiencing with some of our current DBEs, they just don't have the capital funnel, you know, the payment cycles. And while they want the contract, it's a hard thing to manage.
Right.
Okay, 2 questions.
Sure.
In regards to invoicing, if you have errors as a sub, is it safe to say that you have to send the invoice back to be corrected? Is it safe to say they won't be processing for another month, or I can't turn that invoice into that next month?
You know, my experience, we don't want that to happen. So when we send the invoices, we want to send everybody's invoice.
Okay.
So if we send you an invoice for correction, and we usually wait for you to get that correct and send it back, and then we submit it. Because what happens is that if we start open this precedence, then every month we're going to have subs that are going to be off cycle, right? And that becomes even more complicated. Because what happens is that, let's say we send an invoice for now September, okay? And somebody is off cycle. So then when I send my invoice in October, and then there's charges for September from this previous sub, then in general, I'm gonna get a comments like, why are they invoicing now? Why didn't they invoice in September? And that also delays the process. So either way, it delays the process. So for you to establish I go back to, become a reliable partner, right? So that's the key, because in my experience with working with contractors like Passion, Walsh, and any contractor, is that they need reliable, subcontractors, right? So they can execute the work safely. That's number one. Don't cut corners, safety, and have a proper, invoice procedure. Once you do that, you become a reliable partner. I would say that 90% of your business is going to be repeatable business. And that's my recommendation.
And then another question in regards to retention. If you're a sub and let's say your scope of work, it doesn't last the entire project, are you still waiting for your retention payout at the 100% of completion of the project, or how does that work?
A good question. No. So because there are, basically on that document that I mentioned about invoicing and getting paid, there's basically three milestones. One is the initial invoice. The one is also the substantial completion of major milestones. So let's say, we have, we're doing like several stations, right? But then you're only part of the first 2 or 3 stations, your work there. So when those get substantially completed, then you should be able to, get yourself free of that retainage. But it really depends. But the CTA does give the opportunity to bill at major milestones. Any other questions?
Chanel, would you like to talk about the invoicing class that you're putting together?
I'll give you just a minute.
Mm-hmm. What's up? It's okay. We'll let Marco finish with the presentation and we'll talk about it at the end of class.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now let's talk about the project closeout, right? So now you want your retainage back. So here's the steps. So you have to complete all the punch list items. So that needs to be the first thing. The other thing, you have to resolve all non-conformance NCR items. So that, you know, so don't leave your NCRs until the last minute. Try to address as quick as possible. That's been my experience. And then you have to provide some required documentation that it's outlined in your subcontract agreement or on the project specifications. These are not all inclusive. These are just some examples, right? It depends what your specialty is. But some examples is that you have to provide daily progress reports and photos, as built, record shop drawings and product data, testing and inspection reports, delivery tickets, operation and maintenance manuals, training materials, or warranties and any maintenance agreements. Again, these are not all inclusive. Again, when you get yourself involved in a project, make sure you understand what is it going to take for you to get that closed out and get your retainage out. Okay. Next slide. So for the final payment, you have also to resolve all the change orders. You have to resolve all the claims. Hopefully you're not going to have any claims, and hopefully you're not going to have liquidated damages, because you have to get that resolved for you to get your final payment. And then waivers with your subcontractors. So that's how you're going to get your final payment. So long story short is quality, right? Quality of work is fundamental, because you don't want to end up with all these pending items at the end of the project. So you want to do it well, so you can get paid. Next slide. And then the final payment, what you do is once you meet all those requirements that I mentioned, you can submit your final invoice. You're going to provide your final waivers. And all the invoice and the waivers must be marked as final. And again, we go back to Lcp Tracker and B2G now. So you have to complete those two final steps. And that's how you're going to get your final payment. And I think that's the last slide. Can you go to the next? And so I just want to close with, final statement. If you want to reach out to me, please feel free. You have my contact information. I'll be glad to answer to any questions. And if I have to leave here with, some words of encouragement, I enjoy working with the CTA. It's a fantastic client. But again, you need to do good quality work. So, you're going to get repeatable business. There's a learning curve. I'm not gonna deny, but once you pass that learning curve and spend your time, I think that it becomes very easy and enjoyable to do work with the CTA, and I'm sure that you're going to enjoy. And I wish you all the best of luck. So with that, if you have any questions, please.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Marco. We really appreciate this information. And this is time where we're having some internal conversations about assisting our small businesses in our invoicing process, because we know that, little intricate details may trip folks up, and we don't want to hinder their payments.
Right.
So I saw everyone kind of giving you a round of applause. So I think they share my gratitude with you. We will be staying on for a little bit, but you are welcome to jump off, Marco, if you have to.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. If you, like I said, if you have any questions, if you want to, ask any questions now or later, I'm available. with that, I want to say thank you to everyone.
Uh-oh, Marco, wait, I see something
sure.
coming in the chat box. Let me make sure. Claudia, did you have a question for Marco? She began to type your name, but, oh, your contact information.
Yeah, it's on the first slide, right? If you can scroll back to that slide.
Okay. And I can also include it in our recap email this evening.
Yeah, I can also type here.
Any other burning? Oh, I'm sorry, Chanel, go ahead.
I was going to say, did you want me to go into detail about the course? I mean, it's still in the planning stages, but did you want me to cover subject matter or?
Yeah, just give me, it's very related to the conversation that we had today about invoicing. So maybe I know you got a date scheduled and what the topics and conversation is going to be like.
Okay, so basically we are planning a invoicing class. It's a master the invoice process. And so basically the goal of this course is to assist DBEs and small businesses. The participants will become better familiar with the basics of invoicing, learn about invoicing challenges, how to overcome them, but specifically we wanted to place an emphasis on navigating the CTA invoice process, and that's, you know, recognizing common mistakes that occur on invoices and how to avoid them, in addition to suggestions for automating the invoice process, you know, if applicable, if, you know, you aren't already. But the tentative date is November 10th, and stay tuned for more information about that.
Awesome. Thank you, Chanel. Cool. Any other questions for Marco before he jumps off, guys? Awesome. Well, okay. Well, thanks again, Marco. We really appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
And he included his contact information in the chat box. It is 5:13. Let's go ahead and take that 5-minute standing break and come back at 5:18. And then we'll cover a little bit of CTA stuff and then call it a night. How's that sound? Cool. All right. See you guys at 5:18. Welcome back. Welcome back. Can you see my screen, Mike?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
The buy-in plan one?
Yep.
Perfect.
I got a question.
Yeah.
I submitted the last things I needed for my flagging and traffic control.
Mm-hmm.
And I got an email again from CTA saying that it's, what's the word they use? It's incomplete or something, but I don't see any letter or anything what else they're asking for. But I will look again tomorrow and see. But I thought I gave them everything that they were asked, that they needed before they did a site visit.
Yeah. Would you mind forwarding me the information, Mike? And maybe
Sure.
we can look into it with you?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question, please?
Absolutely, Beatrice.
Thank you. Just want to know, get an update on the contact information.
Oh,
of
yeah.
all the participants. Is that coming soon?
Yes, we'll have it out to you guys by the end of class today.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm working on it now, Beatrice.
No, this is Melissa.
Oh, I'm sorry, Melissa. My apologies. I'm working on it.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions, guys?
I just finished bidding the demo on the first 3 stations, the platforms and storefronts down below. I think that's going in. I just finished that on yesterday and sent it in.
Submitted a bid.
There's a lot going on out there.
Surprisingly, right? Considering that everything else is kind of
come to a stop.
Yeah. And I think, I think that for public, a lot of our projects were already budgeted for this fiscal year. So I think that may be why we have the green light to keep going, where some private jobs have already kind of come to a halt or slowed down a little bit. Because
you and the tollway are staying, keeping us busy, that's for sure.
Yep. Good. Well, that's a good problem to have these days.
It sure
Mike.
is. It is. Absolutely.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. Let's see what we have here. We're just going to cover a couple of things just for your knowledge, that hopefully, while we have in the education components about, sorry, there's another chat. It comes up in PDF. Yep. Thank you, Divi. About learning about our contract opportunities. There are 2 ways. One is looking at forecasted opportunities by looking at our buying plan. The buying plan forecast, 12 to 18 months out. Of course, they're projected by quarters. Some of the information may be dead on, or some of the timing may be dead on, and some of the timing may be a little delayed, just depending on what else is on the plate or when things are approved for funding. But the idea is that you want to start thinking about these opportunities very early on, to start thinking about what do you need to go after these contracts? Do you need a partner? Are you a prime or a sub? If you're a sub, what type of primes do you need to be having conversations with? Do you need capital? We talked about, hey, there's going to be some upfront money that you have to invest in. You may not get mobilization dollars to get started. So do you need capital? What are the things that you may need right now to make sure 6, 12, 18 months down the line, these contract opportunities hit the streets, you're much better to prepare. I think we've heard from 5 presenters thus far who all kind of said, if you wait until the solicitation comes out, we may be a little too late, right? So I think there's something to be said about that. So I just wanted to remind you guys that our buying plan is out there. It's a PDF, which means you can kind of use it to search, use the find option to search, and move this out the way, to search your commodities or keywords to expedite finding the opportunities. Let me see, can I blow this up any? You'll notice the ones that are highlighted in green have goals, preliminary goals set aside for them. So those are the ones that you want to pay particular attention to because they are set aside and or have goals attached to them. So I just wanted to remind you that this exists, and it is honestly, the benefit to public contracting or public procurement is that you all have public data to help better position your conversations, help you better understand what's out there. Whereas in the private sector, it is so relationship driven because, you know, this information is hardly available or accessible for us, right? So leverage is very free public information. Any questions about the buying plan? Awesome. And then of course, our live contract opportunities, what's going current, we are now using Bonfire, a new platform. So you would simply go here, click on that link, and it'll give you all of our live contracts. With of course the details, you have to register, I think, to actually pull or download the information. But you'll see off-the-shelf uniforms, Oracle, request for proposal for treasury management, non-revenue. This is the big one. We had the outreach event for a couple of weeks back, design build on 63rd Street. So this is where you will learn about what CTA contract opportunities are open and live and ready for response. Any questions about the procurement portal, Bonfire? And it tells you how many days left of your opportunity. Let's see. So yeah, you click in. Of course, the dates and the documents are important. So we want to note that information. Cool. And then the other thing I just wanted to point you all to is while CTA has our very own buying plan, the city of Chicago, while they're a separate entity, they have a conglomerate of a buy-in plan that includes the other city of Chicago sister agencies and some of the Cook and state agencies. So this may also be a good one for you all to, you know, stay in front of to see what opportunities are available, connect with those prime contractors that may be doing business with the particular agencies already and get in front of it. These are some of the agencies that are included: CHA, Park District, CPS, City Colleges of Chicago. So yeah, quite a few. NWRD. Awesome. Any questions, thoughts? How many of you all have even used the buy-in plan or leveraged the buy-in plan as a part of your sales strategies, as a part of your, yep. And this also kind of comes into place when you're thinking about estimating and budgeting, right? Because if you have a couple of jobs going on concurrently, can you afford them, right? Sometimes you all are here with the decision of if you should bid on multiple jobs at the same time in fear of winning all of them at the same time. How are you going to fund them? So when you think about forecasting these contracts, that can also help you kind of marry that with a cash flow plan in the event that you get these contracts, so you're able to afford them. No, so Beatrice's question was about, she's going through the process of becoming M and WBD certified with the city of Chicago. Should I wait until I receive that before? Nope, you don't have to wait. Honestly, you're in certification mode. And most of the information that they're requiring, we are asking for the same information. So before it gets stale and you have to update it, I would say go ahead and dive into the DBE certification. Ours is free. The Cta Dbe Certification is a part of what's called the Illinois Unified Certification Program, IUCP or something like that, IUCP, which is a reciprocity group of CTA, Metro, PACE, IDOT, as well as the city of Chicago. We each certify the DBE certification, all at no cost, and we all recognize each other's DBE certification. So Beatrice, while you're already going through with the city of Chicago, it may be advantageous if you just go ahead and do their DBE certification, since the information is already in the system. We all use B2G now, but it just may be a little bit more seamless since you're already in that process. And if you go DBE with the City of Chicago, I would go ahead and tap into the ACDBE, the Airport Concessionaire DBE certification if you plan on doing anything at the airport. Did that answer your question? Awesome. Any other questions, guys? All right, just a few things I like to cover before we close out today. Your graduation. So we are in week 5. We are anticipating our completion October 27th. And we want to celebrate you all and your time commitment every Tuesday for a few hours. Your commitment to learning more and getting closer to the CTA business community. And we want to celebrate that by inviting our leadership and other CTA and primes to join us in celebrating you all. So I just wanted to know what a good day for the majority would be. If it would just make sense that we would do it that following Tuesday after we complete, since we're already kind of used to the Tuesday going. And we can, well, I don't even know that date. Let me look for that date. November 3rd. Can I get a thumbs up if November 3rd, 4 to 6 works for us? All right, cool. So we'll pencil that in for our graduation. I share with you all the CTA events, upcoming events. The invoicing class, as soon as we get more details around that, we'll be sure to share that. That may be a good workshop for you all to sit in on. Also, a part of the Small Biz Ed series is once you complete, those who complete within the, obliging to the 6 of 8 courses, we then want to roll you off to OSHA 30 training. And we have to have a minimum of participants in order for us to host the training. So I wanted to know who would be interested in leveraging or attending that OSHA 30 training at no cost. At 1, Curtis, Mike, are you all already OSHA 30? No? But you all are going through the HACIA training. Okay, got it. Good. Javier, Beatrice, Melissa, Divi, perfect. Okay, good. Marina, all right, so good. So 2, 4, 6, so it sounds like we got a 4s. Is that something you'd be interested in, the OSHA 30 training?
Yes,
Awesome.
ma'am.
Okay, so I'll work with our training staff to see what dates will be available. Just a heads up, what I learned from our other planning from the HACIA cohort is that, and Mike and Curtis, correct me if you remember differently, but they're gonna do it in, I think it was 6 days, but it'll be broken up 3 consecutive days for 2 weeks. So imagine Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Chanel, was that kind of what it was? Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday 1 week, and then the next week another Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday?
Oh, the dates I remember, it was like, you're right, wait, repeat those dates again?
I don't remember, the dates have shuffled, but it was like 3 days, it was 6 days total, but they split it up 3 days each week.
Correct, you got it.
Got it. And then for each day, it was 6 hours a day. So it is a full day of training. Yeah, because OSHA 30 is the 30 hours required for the training. So it will be 6-hour days for 6 days, but those 6 days will be broken up over the course of 2 weeks.
Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Is my company certified in OSHA 30 or me?
That's a good question. I think someone asked that, and I'm trying to remember what the answer was. I know the eligibility for the person who should be attending should be someone of management or leadership, perhaps that have any controls over safety. But Mike or Curtis or anyone on the call, actually, do you all know?
No, it'll just be the person. So
got it. So it doesn't move with the business, right? When that person leaves, that certification moves with that person, correct?
Right. Whoever you have on the job site, I guess even CTA, they would need to have their own 30 hours certification. So they have to take that course individually.
Thank you.
Got it. So I will connect with our OSHA training team and identify some potential dates, and I'll make sure I run those by you guys and see if those work and get you all set up for the OSHA 30 training. Next Tuesday, we have managing your talent with Workforce Works. So of course, a conversation about workforce, finding and identifying and getting people on board, but also managing them while they're working for you and what that means in terms of regulation and laws around employees and workforce. Any other questions or comments or thoughts?
Jamie, quick, the OSHA 30, it starts next week, right?
That's a good question. I think
That's
so.
that's what they sent.
That was the latest
next week,
information.
Tuesday and Thursday.
Yep, for the Hacia group. Yep.
Okay.
But that's a good point, Curtis. Perhaps, it may overlap with the time that you all will be here. I was going to say maybe we can squeeze folks into that training.
No, because it ends, I mean, it's a day, it's from 8 to 3, I think. So it ends at 3.
Okay, I'll run that past our team and see. And then if it's an option available, I'll run it past you all. And those who want to go ahead and knock it out now, perhaps we can do that. Otherwise, we may have to wait until the next training sessions. Cool. Well, that is all I have. When I hang up, I'm going to hit send on today's recap. That will include the capability statement template. In addition to today's presentation, Chanel will also follow up with the contact list for everyone. And we will see you all next Tuesday, same time, same place. Cool, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
How's everything going, Curtis? How's it going?
It's going all right, man. How are you?
Good. You getting anything? You staying busy or getting what
Yeah,
what you're looking for?
I got that one job on USC campus. So
Okay, good. Good.
This should last throughout the year. And I'm working on something for next year now. So, and hopefully something with CTA too. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, CTA, you know, they're gonna be putting those stations and they're gonna have all kinds of stuff in those.
Yeah.
You know, especially down below. Because they're, you know.
Yeah, I know. And I still need to get with you. I actually talked to a GC today in regards to a project, Waukegan School.
North Chicago or Waukegan?
This is Waukegan.
Okay.
So yeah, I might need some concrete work.
Okay.
So I get, once I get the bid information, I'll get in touch with you.
All right. Hopefully we can hook up before that. I'll see you later.
All right, see you.